Okay, excellent. So I am going to start screen sharing now. Perfect. All this hidden icons somewhere. Perfect. So we are going to be talking about the purpose of a woman. Why were we created? Why did God create us? What is our purpose? What is our reason for existence? Oftentimes, when we don't understand and appreciate our God-given differences, when I'm talking about differences, I'm talking about the differences between a man and a woman. There's always conflict. And that is why there's always so much conflict in relationships, because as women, some women don't know their purpose, some men don't know either. And if a man and a woman do not understand why they are or who they are, oftentimes they don't get along with each other. And sometimes they don't get along with other people. Just bear with me. Just need to navigate this. Okay. So first of all, I want to tell you that a woman's place, first of all, is in God. Your place first is in God. So no matter what views people have about you, okay, no matter what views people have about you, no matter what people say, no matter what people think or do, your first place is in God. And the purpose of something determines its nature or design. What is your purpose as a woman? Remember, I said your place, first of all, is in God. So it's in God that you can ascertain or find what your purpose is. And the nature of something determines its function and its need. So in other words, your purpose determines your nature or your design. Based on your purpose, Bible says that while we were yet in our mother's womb, God fashioned us, He created us, and He ordained us for a purpose. While you were in your mother's womb, you had a purpose. God created you for a purpose. And based on that purpose, He formed you. Your temperament, everything about you, your height. So if you're short for a purpose. If you're dark for a purpose. If you're tall, there is a reason God made you tall. If you're fat, there's a reason why God made. That's why, fat people are able to sing very well, because they have to sing from they say from their belly. They sing well. So everything about you was fashioned for the purpose that God made for you. That's why we need to appreciate ourselves for who we are and what God has made us, how God has made us. Oftentimes, the problem we have as women is that we compare ourselves. We want to be another person. And funny enough, you want to be this person and this person wants to be you. That's how funny life can be. But then when we understand that because of the purpose that God has in mind for us, He made us the way we are, your temperament, your height, everything about you fashioned deliberately for a purpose. And that the nature determines your function. So in other words, how you are determines how you can function. Your nature determines how you can function. That is why not everybody can do everything. And that is why it's important, because your place is in God. You go to God, you ask God, why did you make me? That should be your starting point. That should be your beginning point. God, why did you make me? And if you make me that way, God, once you find the way God made you, you're able to ascertain how you are going to be able to move on in life, the decisions that you make, the choices that you make. So your nature determines how you function. Oftentimes, I realize that people that are quite garrulous, they make good evangelists. People that like talking, people that I call them extroverts. They're very, very friendly. Once they come into an environment, oh my goodness, they make friends with everybody. Just basic friends, not real friends with everybody. And those people can be great evangelists. But people that are reticent, oftentimes they are detail-oriented, and they could make good managers or good administrators. So your nature actually, your purpose determines your nature, and your nature determines how you function and the things that you actually do. What is purpose? You've heard about purpose, and I know you guys all know the definition of purpose, and I'm just going to remind you again. The purpose of a thing is the original intent of the creator in the creation of something. It is what it is in the creator's mind that causes him to fashion his product in a certain manner. It motivates the action of the creation, or it's motivated by the action of the creator. In other words, the purpose, the original intent, like I said, why right when you were in your mother's womb, God ordained you for a purpose. So your intent, the reason, God had a reason. God had you in mind when he was created you. God had a purpose in mind. God had what he wanted you to do in mind when he created you. So that is what purpose is. So if I might ask somebody today, maybe somebody can share with me, what is your purpose? Remember, I told you it's going to be a discussion. What is your purpose? Can somebody tell me? If you're here and you know that you've ascertained what your purpose is, can you please share what is your purpose? Feel free. I want us to talk. I want us to have a nice time. It's not just going to be only me. What is your purpose? Who knows their purpose, if I'll put it this way? Who knows what their purpose is? I know you know. Come on, talk. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording for a while so you don't, how will I pause it? Is it going to give me that option? Maybe you don't want to share it out there. Okay, I'm going to pause. I'm resume my recording before I forget that. Oftentimes, people think that the only way they fulfill purposes is when they have an altar, a big altar. In fact, let me just say specifically a church altar. That is not it. That is just, like Pastor and I always say, that the purpose of the church is to empower believers to go out there in the marketplace and fulfill the Great Commission. The Great Commission, Jesus said, as you go about your activities, make disciples. That's the Great Commission. And that is what God wants us to. That's the purpose of God for our life. So you don't have to have an altar like Pastor and I in church, because everybody has an altar in their workplace. If you're a medical doctor, that is your altar. I remember my friend, she's a nurse, her husband is a doctor. They have a clinic of their own. I mean, that guy comes and people actually share things with him and he prays for them. That is his altar. As an accountant, when people come to you to help them with their bookkeeping and everything, that is your altar. You don't have to wait to come and mount on Pastor's and I's altar before you think that you're preaching, or any other church altar. No. If you're walking along the road and God brings a woman who is crying and wailing as in need, that is an altar for you. So God's purpose is that as we go along the way, as whoever God brings along the sphere of influence, once you open your mouth to share the gospel, you're a preacher. You're a preacher. The fivefold ministry is just limited for edifying the body of Christ and empowering believers. There's a reason God just made the fivefold: the prophets, the teachers, the pastors, the evangelists, and the prophets. That is just for the edification of the church, but that is not, you cannot limit all believers, because not everybody's going to be a pastor. Not everybody's going to be a teacher. Not everybody's going to be an evangelist or a prophet. No, God did not call everybody into the fivefold ministry, but God has called every one of us to go out there and preach and make disciples. So you are fulfilling your purpose. You were sharing with me the other day of a young lady. You have a restaurant. The people that God bring in your ministry, you're touching them. That's preaching. You're fulfilling your purpose. If you're a counselor, as you're counseling people based on the principles and the precepts of God, though you don't have to preach, quote the Bible, that is your altar. You are preaching. So not only, that is one of the things that dissuades a lot of people, or it discourages a lot of people when they think that it's only when they come on the pulpit and do something, that's the only time they're doing something. No, that's not true. Wherever God takes your workplace, in fact, the marketplace ministry is, I will say, is one of the most important, because there you meet people with real needs. Oftentimes people come to church and try to be what they're not. Church is supposed to be a hospital, but oftentimes believers try to camouflage who they are, so sometimes you don't even know who is who. But in the marketplace, I'm telling you that people are themselves, because they are struggling, they are real with their challenges. And because you're not a pastor, they'll feel free to share it with you. And then that's an opportunity for you. They'll tell you, I'm telling you this out of experience. Oftentimes we talk to people and they're like, oh, everything is good. They're all great and everything. Then somebody that knows them is now telling us something opposite, that they're struggling. Why? Because I'm not everybody, but I'm just a few people that we've come across, because they're just trying to make you feel that they're also powerful and great and all that stuff. But then you, because you're their friend, they're not trying to impress you or anything. They share with you things, and that's an opportunity. You're able to actually know the truth about themselves. And if you know somebody, the truth about somebody, you can help the person. You can't help the person based on what they present themselves to be if it's not true. But if you know the real truth, you can deep dive. That's a word they always use, and into the solution, into the challenge, and help them. So marketplace ministers have the greater capacity to actually influence and help people. I always say your greatest influencer is your friend more than your pastor. Because you're most of the time you're real to your friends more than you're real to your pastor. Because you're just down to earth with your friend. You're just open. It's your friend. Who cares? And that friend can influence you because you listen to that friend more than actually you are listening to your pastor. Some people are like that. Not all the case anyways. Not everybody does that. But I noticed that some people do that. So the marketplace ministers, your restaurant, your counseling place, your hospital, that is the best place to get people. People are real, are authentic. People have real needs. They come to you. And that is an opportunity for you to use the principles of the word of God. You help them. You bring solution into their life. And sometimes some of them want to know who Jesus is. And you'll be able to share with them and tell them who Jesus is. So, Pauline, you're already preaching. You shared with me that with that young lady that you preached to. Not just one. Two. You're already doing that job. So don't feel like you're not. You are already preaching to people. Auntie Cordelia, I know you raised up your hand, so I'm just going to give you a few minutes to before. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I believe that my own purpose is that whatever I find myself doing, I should do it with the mind that to glorify God. And I know from time that I have the ministry of help
Okay.
because I don't, whenever I see people suffering, I see how I feel it and I don't care. Even if it's the last thing I have, I'd rather ensure that I help that person before I even think about myself. And so that's why I believe that that's my own purpose. Because even my husband have identified and noticed that he will say to me, if I don't hold you, you might even give out your child.
I tell you, and I agree with him. This
You
man,
might even give out
when
your
I saw
child
a child, yeah.
without
So,
even thinking or anything.
and that's a great ministry. That's a great ministry for the body of Christ. The ministry of help, because people need help. Everybody actually needs help. So that is a great, great ministry that you do have. And I know that you're helping a lot of people. So you are fulfilling your purpose. And this is just the beginning. God is going to give you more opportunities to also help more people. Bible says if you're faithful in little, the Lord will give you much. So once you're faithful with the thing that God has given you, at that point in time. No, there's a time for everything. I mean, God might tell you what your purpose is. He'll not tell you how to get there. And sometimes he might even not, he will not actually, he chooses not to give you the details because oftentimes we run ahead of God because we're trying to make it happen ourselves. But God does not want us to run ahead of him. God wants us to walk with him. So every point, every level that you are, be happy, give God praise, enjoy it because it is a step to the next level that you're in. You cannot go from A to Z like that. No, you have to go to A, B, C, D, E, F down to Z. And that's the best way to go. Myself, physics teacher, I always say you don't want to go from here to top because when you're going to fall, you're going to fall drastically. But if you go gradually and gradually, when you want to fall, it's going to be gradual. And that's my husband's principle and I principle. We're not looking for to be celebrities. We're not even looking to be celebrities. All we just want is to fulfill God's purpose for our lives and all that stuff. So we're not looking to conquer the whole world in a day. No, you only end up burning and killing yourself for nothing. But you enjoy the process, take your time, whatever God has places you, enjoy it. Enjoy life. Life is but a vacuum. Wherever God has placed you, whatever you're doing, make sure that you enjoy it. So God is a God of purpose. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing. I appreciate you for that. God is a God of purpose. He created everything with a purpose, you in mind, and for a purpose. So in other words, if you want to discover the purpose of a thing, you go to the maker And if your car has a problem and you want to fix it, we always go to Mercedes or Ford, whoever it is that manufactured it. So also, if we have encountering challenges in our purpose work, we go to God. And remember that God's purpose is the key to your fulfillment. You cannot fulfill destiny without, if you're not in God. I mean, trust me, you can conquer, you can do everything. You will not be fulfilled. You're still trying to, like a racery, they call it. You're all over the place trying to find something. And yeah, so God is a purposeful being. His purposes, his plans, and he carries out his plans. He knew before the beginning of the world, it's for a purpose, the plan for you, plan for good and evil, to give you a hope, to give you a future, to bring you an expected end. So there are two reasons for creation. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm going to speed up the process. One, for relationship. God wants to have a relationship with you. And two, to fulfill his purpose in this earth. And remember that God, you can read Genesis 1:26-28. And remember, God has created every one of us to have dominion. So we're going to talk about Eve's purpose. Remember, Bible says, Genesis 2:18-23, that Eve was created to be a perfect, to be a helpmate to Adam. So can somebody turn to the book of Genesis chapter 2, verse 18-23, please? Can somebody share as a read? Genesis 2:18-23. Does anybody have it?
Genesis 2.
18-23.
Oh my God. Okay. And the Lord God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmate for him." And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof.
Thank you.
And verse 20, I'm so sorry, this Bible I'm using. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bone, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man."
Thank you so much. That's amazing. God bless you. Thank you. So Eve was called to be a helpmate to Adam. As a woman, we have been called, if you're a married woman here, you have been called to be a helpmate to your husband, a perfect complement, not a competitor. So oftentimes, what I realize is that some women, based on their temperament, they have challenges navigating that aspect. So instead of becoming a perfect complement, sometimes they find themselves competing when they don't intend to. If that is your kind of temperament, you have to really, really work hard on it to make sure that you're not competing, but you're actually complementing, because God has called us to complement. Oftentimes I realize that husband and wives, the wife's strength is a husband's weakness, and the husband's weakness is the wife's strength. So in other words, your strengths complement each other. So as a woman, as a wife, your purpose is to find ways that you can complement your husband. My husband always say that if two people are doing the same thing, one person is not important. Two people cannot be doing the same thing. That is why you find out my husband and I, we don't do the same thing. Once my husband is doing one thing and I'm doing another thing, because we choose to, not that we cannot do what the other person is doing, but then you choose to complement each other because you're a team. So as a wife, you're called to help. And one of the ways of helping is complementing. The Hebrew calls it ezakenedo, means help mate. So men and women were created with complementary designs that reflect their individual roles in the larger purposes for which they were created. That is why every marriage must have a purpose. When the man and the woman comes into that relationship, everybody has a role. But remember that your roles have to be geared towards fulfilling the purpose of that marriage. Your husband is going to be different from you. Oftentimes they say opposite attracts, which is a good thing. Because if you have two hot people in the house, my goodness, that house is going to burn down. And if you have two cool people in the house, oh my goodness, the house is going to be cold. So opposite is always a good thing. But the most important thing is going to God and asking God to lead you to that person. And once you find your mate in God, then you complement each other. So I am going to go to the next slide, the role of a wife. So actually I was going to, I decided to add this because when we're having our last meeting, our women's prayer conference, we talked about the mother, and somebody had requested us to talk about the wife, and that's why I decided to put it in today. Some of us are wives here, and some of us are going to be our wives to be. I was sharing with somebody, it was in my first year in university that I was taught to start praying for your husband, and I was taught some of these principles. So you start learning before you get into it. So if you're married here, it's for you. We're reminding each other. If you're not married here, it's still for you to learn. And if you're not thinking of getting married, you can also use it to help the people that God brings you. Remember, I told us you're talking to them, you're preaching, you're fulfilling God's purpose for you. So in other words, this whole thing is good for every one of us. You learn to help other people, you learn for yourself, or you learn for your future. So what is the role of a wife? Genesis 2:18 says, number one, be a helper to your husband. Genesis 2:18 says, and the Lord said, it is not good for a man to be alone. I will make him a helpmeet. It is not good for a man to be alone. Not good. Man is not complete when he's alone. Things don't work out very well when man is alone. It is not good. So God chose to make a woman. So as a woman, you are called, number one thing, you're called, the first reason that you're called, or your first purpose is to be, apart from your purpose in God, remember, your first place is in God, we've taken care of that, is to be a helper to your husband. Always find ways that you can help. And that is why if you're not married here, before you get married, before you get married to a man, ask him, hey, what do you intend to do in life? What is your purpose in life? Where do you want to take us to in life? Remember, the man is the leader in the house. So God gives him the whole blueprint picture for the family. God gives him the purpose for the family. The family has a purpose. So if you're marrying a man, if you're not married here and you want to find a man, please, if the man does not have a purpose, do not marry him yet until you go to him and ask him, tell him to ascertain what his purpose is, because you are there to help fulfill that purpose in whatever way. That's, yes, somebody is raising their hands. Is that a mistake?
Good morning. No, it's not a mistake.
Finally, we saw your face. We were calling you before. Was baby taking you away?
Yes, she was.
Oh, how is she, my darling?
It's fine.
Okay. Yes.
Doesn't it take someone who knows or acknowledges that he needs help to receive the help?
Yes.
How can you help a man who is not aware that he needs help?
That's a tough place to be in. You're 100% right. If somebody does not acknowledge you need help, I'm telling you, kill yourself for them. You're wasting your time. The first step is that if a man does not realize that he needs help and you are already married to him, that is now your cross to carry. Mm-hmm. And the only way you can carry that cross is to go to God in prayer and say, God, please let him realize that he needs help. Depending on who the kind of man is, some men will listen. Some men are so stubborn that maybe the only way that they will actually realize it is when they hit. My husband will always say, you hit your rock bottom. That's when you come crying for help. So first of all, you have to understand who the person is, know who the person is. Some people are so really do listen to you. And that way, because some people don't know, nobody knows everything in life, for both men and women. That's why we are there to help each other, right? So if you're married a man that does not know he needs help, as a woman, you have to use wisdom to know how to show him that he needs help, talk to him. If he's the kind that is receptive, you accept it. He will accept it. But if he's the kind that is stubborn, number one, you've done your part. Now I'm talking about you're married already, because you're not running out of it. You're stuck. You're stuck in it, so you have to deal with it, right? So you have to talk to him about it. If he doesn't accept it, you've talked about it, you now go to God in prayer. That is just the only way. Because I realized for the stubborn people, oh my goodness, the more you try to prove to them they need help, the more both of you are going to end up fighting and fighting and fighting, which is not a good thing. So I call them stubborn people. Stubborn people, but stubborn people are usually strong people, really. Strong people are, because of their temperament, we say they are stubborn, but because they're strong, right? That's their nature, so you have to go to God. Only God can help you. If there's somebody they listen to, then go to them. That's why I always say that we don't do life alone. You always need a mentor. Just like Pastor and I, we also have somebody above us. If you find somebody that does not have somebody above them, run away. That person is dangerous to you. You have to be, if somebody is not accountable to anybody, run away. Because that person, we always say, why would you want to be a leader if you cannot be a follower? If you cannot be a good follower, you cannot be a good leader. Because you have to actually understand what it means to be a follower, to be able to lead. So if the person does not have somebody they listen to, and you're a wife, you have to pray for two. In fact, your own is going to be prayer. But if you're not yet married and you notice that in that person, please take a step back. It's a red flag. And that is why we take care of all these things before we jump into a relationship. And that is why for those of you that are not married, it's a good thing that you're here to hear it so that you know the cautions that you have to take care of before you jump into it. So the man, number one, like we talked about, has to have a purpose. Number two, has to have somebody he's accountable to, somebody that he listens to, because I'm telling you, some of you are married and you can bear me witness. During our discussion, we're all going to chip in here and share and help one another. You know that marriage is not a bed of roses. And somebody said, even if it were, roses have thorns. So in other words, it's not a smooth ride. It is a beautiful thing. It is one of the best things God has made. But just like in everything in life, it's not easy. There are days, hey, you yourself, even when you were a child, I'm not talking about you, Sick, I'm just talking to everybody generally. When we're a child, you know how our mothers, our parents are talking to us and we're like, How much more? Everybody's an adult, everybody's an individual, everybody's have their own mindset. So sometimes you're talking and the wife is like, this is what I want. And sometimes you find yourself in a relationship, the other person is not ready to budge. And it's creating a lot of problems in your marriage. You have to go to the person. The only mediating factor. Now, I do not suggest every little thing in your marriage, you run to somebody. Please try to keep it in your marriage as much as possible. Contain whatever you're going to as much as possible. But then when you know that you are not able to contain it, please go for help before we start hearing stories. Go for help, because that is where we talk about accountability partner. Oftentimes your pastors or your Christian counselor, somebody you trust, will not even advise your parents. Because I'm telling you, as a parent, if my daughter comes to me and tells me that something is wrong, I will cite my doctor. So there's always bias. So I won't even suggest parents. And that is why somebody that you're accountable to, the person, somebody that your husband or the wife listens to, somebody that you both respect. And if you are married, if it's the man or a woman that does not listen to anybody, then that's a problem, another prayer point. So these are some of the red flags you have to look at for those of you that are not married. Somebody that does not listen to anybody, that are just by themselves, that's a problem. Because when you're married, challenges are going to come up. That's for sure, 100% sure. And that person doesn't listen to anybody, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a problem. So if the person doesn't need help, seeker, doesn't realize that they need help, pray that God will open the eyes of their understanding to realize that they need help. There's nothing God cannot do. Our prayer is on our knees. Marriage is 100% taken care of on our knees. before you even start. Oh, well, oftentimes, especially women that talk, we rant, and our rantings does not get us anywhere. Those of you that are married, you know that. You talk and talk and talk, and your talking does not get you anywhere. But on your knees, you win the battle, especially when you know that you're right. Because sometimes you're right, though. Sometimes you're right, and sometimes you're right in your own eyes, and the man is right in his own eyes, because we're all different. We see things from different perspectives. But the problem is for us to now come together and agree. That is where the problem is, And sometimes if it's not handled properly, it could be a big problem that keeps bringing fight in the marriage. And then that's when you need a third party to help you resolve that issue. And that's where accountability comes. So if he doesn't know that he needs help him realize it. If he's willing to take the help, that's great. If it's not, please go on your knees or go to an accountability partner if it's getting so much. But remember, keep it to your marriage. Please don't go about telling your girlfriends what's going on in your marriage. I plead with you, please don't. Don't go around talking about, we're all women here, so don't go about talking about your husband to this person. Just keep it within yourself. And if it's not a problem that you do not resolve, you cannot resolve, then find a trusted person. And that that will help you and share, because it has reached you've reached your peak. Does that help? Auntie Sika, are you there? Baby has called you away again. Yeah, so, and Auntie Cordelia, I think I saw your hand raised up. Did I?
Actually, I raised my hand, but then I just okay. What I wanted to also say is that, like from the very beginning, we have to also be careful not to, well, for those who are not married already, not for us, we're already in it. You need to be careful not to marry someone that the gap is too much, because sometimes, when I mean gap, even educationally, if a woman is more educated than the partner, sometimes when you are saying something that is right, they may be thinking, oh, because you went to school, and then they are not looking at it in a rational way, and there could be lots of struggling with that. And also,
Compatibility.
yes, and then also even financial level too.
In all
The
areas.
woman is even more empowered when you say, oh, it's because you have money. And so that kind of makes sometimes you don't even say anything. Yeah, like you don't want to go through that route, and you keep holding back and holding back. But when you explode, things can go really, really wrong. So because such things bring about a complex, and the way God has made men, they want to feel superior. And so when from the beginning those issues are there, that marriage will have a lot of rocky points because of that complex issue.
Right. So that's why we talk about compatibility. Make sure that you're thank you so much for sharing that. That was amazing. So that's why we talk about compatibility. Make sure that you're compact. So knowing the person before you jump in. Compatibility issue, make sure that you're compatible with the person spiritually, financially, emotionally, educationally, in any way at all. You will see the red flag when you're in a relationship. That's why when people are dating, we don't want you guys to get involved with all those butterfly feelings. I love you. That's the whole thing you call on your phone and you guys are talking about. It's good, but that's not the focus. That is when you be able to find out who the person is. All these other red flags, you start seeing them little by little. Though I know when people are dating or courting, sometimes they pretend to be what they're not. Actually, you don't really know somebody entirely until you're married to that person, because that's when you know you're with the person 24/7, right? But then oftentimes some red flags shows when you start asking the right questions, having the right discussions and all that stuff, instead of going into focusing on all those feelings and all that stuff. All right. So number 2, respect your husband. I think respect is a big thing for men. Okay. When you respect your husband, you're reverencing him, you're noticing him, you're regarding him, you're honoring him, you prefer him above all else. And I want to chip in to both the married women and those that are not yet married. Please never you make your husband feel that you honor another man above him. It will be chaos for you. I want to share a story about a lady, well, somebody, I don't know the lady, but someone shared a story. She was a deaconess in the church or something like that. She wasn't the only one. I think it's a normal thing. In London, I think with a lot of people. But then her case was that she was a deaconess, even for people that were not deaconess. And I remember when this lady goes to church, she's bowing down to her pastor. Yes, da. But when she goes to her home at her husband, she literally insults her husband. Now, this husband does not go to church. And they were trying to get a husband to come to church. This lady was faithful. She was always in church doing all that she was supposed to do and all that stuff. But her husband rebuffed coming to church. Why? Because her husband felt that his wife was insulting him. Because he sees the way when she comes home, all she talks about is a pastor, 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 pastor. And the husband is listening to you. How do you think you make the man feel? We use wisdom. Respect your pastor for sure. That is your authority. That is your spiritual authority. But remember, your husband also is your authority. Never him feel like another man is better than him. Even if your husband is still, for those that are already married, and you think that your husband has not arrived where you want to be, never make him feel that another man, whether it's your boss, or you come back home and you're talking and your boss did this, your boss, haven't you seen people like that? I know we talk about church segment sometimes because that's where we are in, but even in the workplace, people come back, boss did this, boss, especially back home, we're very respectful back home. It's not like in this North America, whereby everybody's equal, nobody regards you as anything. But back home, you're a boss, my boss, hey, madam, Ogami, that kind of the very respectful. And you come back home and you're talking about, my boss is this, my boss, your husband is there listening to you. What do you think you're doing to your marriage? Marriage is wisdom. Every little thing affects the way, affects us in marriage. If you're somebody, and another thing is that do not compare your husband. This is not part of what I wanted to share, but I guess it's good that we discuss it because I think it's an area I wanted to focus on. So I think we've gotten into our discussion as well. Don't compare your husband to another man out there. And just like if the men were here, I would telling them, don't compare your wife with another man. Never you compare your spouse with anybody out there. If you're already in it. If your spouse does not reach your standard, number one, you should have not married that spouse. But then if you are already in it, my dear, you can build up that spouse to be who you want him or her to be. Somebody always says, you look at the other person and say the grass is always green. That person's grass is green. Your grass can be green. Do you know what the person did to make the grass green? Oftentimes you see people, you're lucky. No. There's a price that is being paid to get that man or that woman to be where they are supposed to be. Are you willing to do the work to help your husband be who God is supposed to be, who God has called him to be? If you start comparing, this person is this, that's what my husband always tells me, it's not good. Don't compare. Don't compare, this person is this person is this person. No, it's not good. Whenever we're talking to people, he always says that. Don't compare. Number one, everybody's purpose is different. Your husband's purpose is different. If you know that you're not going to be proud of who that man is or who that man, please don't marry that man. You end up frustrating him. Wait for that Prince Charming that you're looking for, which you might never find. Meanwhile, Prince Charming was made by somebody else. So are you willing to put into work so that you can have your Prince Charming? But there are some Prince Charming that cannot be Prince Charming because they were not ordained to be Prince Charming, and you cannot make them Prince Charming. So that is why we talk about talk about your purpose before you get married, because you are going to help him become that Prince Charming purpose. So if you do not know it, you are not going to, if you don't know what it is, if he doesn't know what it is, and how are you going to help him become Prince Charming? No two men are alike. Do not compare them. Do not wish that another person, your husband was like with another person. All these little things, they only end up destroying your marriage. They bring resentment and things. If you're already in it, God can help you build your husband, not for what you want, but for what he wants, for the purpose of your marriage. If you're not already married beforehand, my dear, discover and find out if it's something that you can deal with. And to I mentioned an important point, compatibility. If you're a high school dropout and you want to marry a graduate, my dear, there's going to be a problem. So if you want to marry a graduate, you be a graduate. So empower yourself to be a graduate. Or if you're a graduate and you want to go marry a high school dropout as a man, that one is going to be warfare, because the man's ego, men are more egotistic than we are. We are not, that's just who they are. Oh my goodness. And other ways, compatibility is important. So make sure that you're compatible with whoever you want to marry. And if you're already in it, you're already in it. So you're going to have to do extra work to make it, because you're not leaving that relationship. You're in there. You said, till there do me part. That was your vow, and you have to keep to it. You're not leaving it. You have to try the way to make it work. Before you enter, open your eye. And when you enter, you're going to have to make it work. You're there. Pastor and I will always say, don't come to us and ask us to divorce. You guys are going to divorce. Oftentimes people have come to tell us, Pastor, we want to divorce. Pastor and I say, no, we do not believe in divorce. You go, not us. Okay? So if there's a problem beforehand, always look for counseling, but before you enter, go. So respect, value his opinion is very, very important. The husband is the head. For me, I always make it a point of duty, even if I know what to do, I always have to pass it through my husband. I gotta ask him first, because both of you have to be in alignment for that thing to work. For a woman, sometimes it is right for a man to ask her opinion, but sometimes a man can get away with it because we're not egotistical. No, I'm like, okay, we just let it go. But a man cannot get away with it if he's a super ego man. So, and it's always right, actually. It's even safe, because the person sees it from a different perspective. So there's safety. The Bible says in a multitude of counselors, there's safety. There's safety when you hear somebody's opinion, because the person is seeing what you do not see. And when both of you bring a balance to the equation, all this whole thing, you're a team, is for the good of the whole marriage. So value his opinion. Don't go and do things behind him without him knowing. Sometimes you might get yourself into trouble. He is the head. Admire his wisdom. Every man in his own way is wise. There are different levels of wisdom. Based on his level, he's wise. You chose him, so admire him. Admire his character. Now, if his character is not a good character, that's where you're gonna have to help him change. That's why we talk about helpmate. You help him. You don't force him, but you help him. Appreciate his commitment. Number 3, I'm going to go quickly. Love your husband. People think that men only need respect. Men need love too. And basic foundation for every marriage is agape love, unconditional love. Very, very important. Number 4, submit to the leadership of your husband. And that is where a lot of women have challenges. I know we talk about gender equality and all that stuff, which is great, but my dear, the Bible is the standard. Husband is the head of the house. The Bible says in Ephesians 5:22, wives, be subject to your own husband as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ also is the head of the church. So your husband is your head. You get to submit to him. What is submission? People think that women think that submission is weakness. No, there is strength in submission. Submission is actually bringing strength under control. Do you know that it's easy for somebody that does not have anything to submit? But if you're a strong woman, it takes a lot more to submit than your submission is real. Why do I say so? I mean, if you don't have anything to offer, then you can just say, yes, go ahead. But if you're a strong man, you're smart and you're educated and have anything, you are now not forgetting, but you're not bringing that your whole capacity and submitting it to the man's mission. And remember, it's the mission of the marriage. So in other words, you know it all, you're smart, you can do it. But the man says, this is what I want, because it is good for the family. You now submit. Now, that does not mean that you're a yes woman. I'm not saying say yes. I mean, you have to air your opinion as well, your perspective, not in rebellion. There's always a way that you air your opinion, because it's important. Hey, the man is always seeing from his perspective. I say a leader is up there, a leader is seeing something from up. Also, you, the neck, you're seeing something from down, which the leader might not see. It takes two to build. So there's just safety in both of you talking about it. But then when both of you have talked about it, then you let the man have a final say. That's especially a very strong person. It's very difficult, but you gotta really work on it. Submission is from the word sub and mission. Sub, what is sub? Submarine, they operate underwater. And mission is the purpose for the marriage. So that is what submission is. You come under the purpose of the marriage. So submit to his leadership, submit to him. Even when it feels like, if you know that he's derailing, please go and pray. Because I will not say rebel, but go to God and ask God for help. Because whatever decision the man makes affects the whole family. And sometimes, trust me, they might not know that their decision is, because in their own eyes, they're right. But you know that there's a comma there. Not that he's wrong, but there's a comma. And having talked about it and everything, if he insists, and you know that it's going to affect your family badly, please go to God in prayer so that God can work it out for you. Because I realize that oftentimes when we keep on hitting and making our point, we're only causing problems. We're only causing more problem. And there's going to be fracas and quarrel, which is not a good atmosphere for our relationship. So strong women, you have a lot to do with submission. But bear in mind, submission is not weakness. It's actually your strength. It's actually a good thing for the marriage. And that's what God has ordained anyways. Help him become who God has intended him to be. Remember, we talked about that. You're there to be helpmate, to help him fulfill purpose. So find out who he is supposed to be and help him become that person. Help him. If he's not educated, help him go to school. Your husband your husband is your pride. Eh? The pride of a woman is a husband. You know that no matter how high you are, your husband is your pride. So if you're going higher and you're leaving your husband behind, because some women are like that, some women are so controlling that they want to be the boss in the house. And especially, my husband will always tell me he's in the Jamaican culture. Bear with me if you're a Jamaican here, maybe you can correct me too. Where you fall into a culture where the man stays at home and the woman is the one going out there taking care of things and all that stuff. Maybe it's kind of like a wet culture. So you're out there, you're in charge and everything. And your husband is your pride. He is your pride. He is your pride. So try to help him. If he doesn't go to school, help him, empower him, push him to go to school. Anything that will help him become better, push him. He is your pride. Because when they stand and they talk, when a man and wife stand and call, is the man that they'll call first. You wife, you have to sit down and you have to sit down and wait for your husband to talk. When you go to a place, a meeting, except it's a place of work where you are the worker there. But if you go to functions or things like that, it's the husband they will call first to talk. And if your husband is not empowered enough, you'll be embarrassed. So help him become empowered, help him be somebody. But remember, don't try to make him what he's not supposed to be. Help him become who God has created him to be. It still goes down to the purpose of your marriage. Help him. Be a person that your husband can trust. Can your husband trust you? Be a person who he knows that he can share things with. A person knows you can have his back at all point in time. Be kind and be gracious to him. Always be in his corner. Don't fight him, but fight with him. You guys fight, especially in the public. Stand together and fight. You guys can go home and do your thing. Sort it out. But in public, stand with him. Always stand with him. Support him in all his endeavors. Always be his number one support. Nothing should be too menial for you to do for him. Sometimes the both of you are not called into the same profession. But even when you go to your work out there and you come back, find a way to also support him. Ask him how was his day in any way you can help. Be a safe place for him. A place he knows that he can come and cry. A place where he knows he can come and be himself and he will not be judged. Bear in mind that nobody is perfect. I have my weaknesses. You have your weaknesses. We all have our weaknesses. Nobody is perfect. You didn't marry God. You married an imperfect man. An imperfect man has challenges, just like you have challenges. God is still working on every one of us. But be a safe place where he can come and be real and not be judged. And above all, pray for him. Pray for him. There's power in praying wife. I wrote a book, the Empowered Wife. It's a prayer guide. I know oftentimes some of us like, I don't know how to pray. I don't know what to pray. And that's why it said, put it together to help us. I mean, some of us just jump out 5 minutes and come out. I'm using it myself. Actually, to be honest, I started writing that because I wanted to help myself pray. Because sometimes we just go 5 minutes, we jump out. But when we deliberately spend time and pray on all the other things, you find that you can spend 2 hours praying for your husband. And that was why I actually did that prayer guide. And I'm working on the one for moms and also for youth as well. I'll soon be releasing it by God's grace, just to help us pray, spend time and really pray in details. For those of you that are not yet married, you have to make yourself marriageable. You want a man to marry you, you have to make yourself marriageable. Some women are not marriageable. Remember, being beautiful is not being marriageable. What are the qualities of a good wife? Now we always go to Proverbs 31, which I'll suggest you go and read, but I'm not going to be delving into that today. Number one, are you a woman that fears God? Now I'm talking to those that are not yet married, so you can make yourself marriageable. I won't go into details because of our time. Are you one that fears God? Your character. Hey, oftentimes, Bible talks about let our adorning be that of the heart, the beauty that comes from the heart. It is not being beauty physical, it is being beauty from your heart, your character. You know, I see some beautiful people, but their character stinks. You can attract a man by your beauty, but you put him off by your character. Is your character a good one? Is your character the kind of character that a man sees and says, hey, this lady is amazing? Men that want to play around can play around with you if you're beautiful outside. I call it flirting and all that stuff. You know, what is the name of all these men? What did they call it? Something boys. Yeah, playboys. That's what they call them, playboys. And those playboys are smart. Playboys play with all the ladies that want to play with them. But then when they want to marry, they go and look for a good character, a good man with character to marry. So if you want to be a wife material, check your character. If your character stinks, work on it. Because your beauty ain't gonna attract any man, except the beauty of the heart, which the Bible talks about. Be a principled person. Be principled. Don't be have principle. Be a lady, a woman with a principle. Not because you want something from this person, you bend. Because you want something from another person, you bend. You're always compromising up and down. No, let your principle guide the decisions that you make. Don't be a compromising lady, a compromising woman. The men can accept him, those that compromise. Because when you're with them, especially those of you that are married, man, oh, if you don't sleep with me, you don't love me. Hey, some of them might be testing you. And you say, okay, because you want to hook on to that man, you sleep with that man. Hey, the man already knows that, or maybe if he's a serious Christian, he doesn't want to sleep with you. The moment you start yielding to sleep, he knows that you're not a principled lady. Some people cut it off. Then be a principle. Do not compromise the word of God, the standard of God. People respect people that are principled. Not because you want something, you compromise because you get that thing. Whatever you compromise to get, you have to compromise to keep. Because the moment you stop that compromise, you lose that thing. Because it was based on compromise, not based on a solid foundation. Be ambitious. Have a goal as a woman. What do you want to be? What do you want to do with your life? Do you want to establish a business? Do you want to go to school? Have a goal. When men talk to you, they know. They ask you a question. I remember my husband told me, I didn't even know. I was just myself. And he was like, he asked me if I was given some money, what will I do with it? And I gave him my answer based on who I was, based on my principle. And he had asked other ladies. My husband's case is a different story because I mean, my husband as a leader, leaders, he's been a leader all his life. And while I was even away, it's just a different story to share another day. But then there were so many people that wanted him to marry them, so many great preachers. Some women firebrand. Remember, there was this firebrand, my husband was sharing, there was this firebrand lady. This lady can preach down a mountain. And she thought my husband was going to marry her because she was a firebrand woman. But it was so funny. I mean, when my husband eventually told her that he was marrying me, she almost died, because she thought she was going to be the one because she was firebrand. My husband was like, firebrand, me firebrand. There'll be chaos in the house. That's not what I'm looking for, And there was this other one that was so many people around him. But then he tested them with those questions too. And their answers was totally different based on their principle. Be a principled person. I responded just being who I was, not because I wanted anything. In fact, I didn't even know he was going to marry me then. We were just leaders in our fellowship in school. And I didn't know he was testing me. The man might be testing you and you would not know. And if you're not a woman of principles, you will yield, because oftentimes women think they can try to seduce a man and get the man, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work. It doesn't work I'm talking about for real men, not for a playboy. Playboy, yes, but for real men, they know what they want. It doesn't work. Be a principled woman, and men respect women that are principled. Don't just go for anything. Don't compromise for anything. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to talk to them. Don't be afraid to tell them that this is not real, this is not right. Don't be afraid to talk when things are not going well, both for that's the character of a good, say, woman that's not afraid to say the truth. Be selfless. It's just not about you, yourself, me, myself, and I. Be a selfless person. Life is all about sacrifice. Be willing to sacrifice for the other person. Be attractive. Attractive, it's good. Dress well. Don't expose yourself. Do you know people are dressy by the way that you dress? Cover yourself up. People don't need to see all those fleshes. They are meant for your husband alone. And do you know that if men, when they see people that are like that, they already categorize you somewhere. And if a woman is looking for a husband, please cover yourself properly. I'm not saying dress like Deeper Life people, forgive me, but you know how they dress. I'm not saying dress like that way. I'm not saying that way. Come on, look good, dress well. But you don't need to expose yourself to attract a man. If you expose yourself, you attract a man like that. And is that the kind of man that you want as a husband? Dress properly. You're a virtuous woman. Unconditionally love and care. Be a loving and a caring person. Love with people, care for people. Rebecca, that was what got her husband and Isaac. She saw them, they needed water. She ran ahead and got water for them, fed them, not because she was looking for Isaac as a husband, but because that was just who she was. She cared. In your process of caring and doing the right thing, you never can tell that will open doors for you. Be submissive. We've already talked about that. Don't be a control freak. You always want to be in control. Trust me, men will run away from women that like control. In our school, university days, all these things I'm sharing out of experience. In our university days, my husband was sharing with me. There was this guy, we're in the same fellowship together, and this lady, we're in the same fellowship together. This lady, oh my goodness, I love her so much. God bless her. God may her soul rest in peace. She's dead now. This lady, my God, she'll do anything for me. Oh, you dare not come and touch me. You dare not come out. She will fight you. She was my mate, but she was on the extroverted side. And I was I know people will not believe it, but I'm a very reticent person, very quiet person. That you see me talk is because I have to do what God calls me to do, or else. No, in my church, before I got married, nobody even knew where I was. I was a leader, but a quiet leader. But nobody, I can be in a room and nobody will know I'm dead. That's the kind of person I was. So she had to defend me. She took it upon herself to fight. And she was an engineer, very smart girl. So she took it upon herself to defend me because she knew I will not defend myself. And she was a financial secretary in our fellowship. She was the one that handed over to me, and I became financial secretary. She was just the perfect pastor's wife, I always say. Very smart. She's got the word inside out, upside out. She's got a build, very intelligent. And she wasn't from AG background, totally, and everything was so. But then because of who her temperament, because of all that thing, she was like on the strong side. So I remember there was this guy in our fellowship that was looking for a wife. So my husband was like, why doesn't he think about her? Because they were friends. Both of them were friends too. So why don't you marry this girl? Because we all know that she's a godly woman and everything, But I know what he said. He said, I do not want the person that will say, if we let us die tomorrow, the person will say, let us die today. So he was afraid of a controlling woman. And he ran away and he went to look for a quiet woman to marry. So oftentimes men run away from controlling. So don't be a control person. Don't be controlling at all. Be faithful. Be faithful. Can somebody trust you to be faithful to him or her? In a relationship, a man can accept it if you're faithful. If you're a person that you're with him today, tomorrow you're looking for another person, I mean, the guy is going to leave you. Will not want to marry you if you're all over the place. Even in your relationship, they can even watch your relationship with people. If you're not faithful to them, that tells you, okay, if you're not married, please watch your environment. People are watching you. People are watching the kind of person you are. I never knew my husband was watching when we were in university. It was after I got married, he told me he was watching who I was. If I was messing up then, I would have messed up my destiny. Your husband is watching you, you don't know. He's watching your character, he's watching your move, he's watching your attitude. And you think you're just by yourself doing what you want, you can put that guy off without you knowing it. So be very, very, very careful. So those are the qualities of a good wife, among so many that I didn't mention. Proverbs 24 says, prepare your work outside and make it ready for yourself in the field. Afterward, then build your house. So this is your time of preparation if you're not married. Prepare so that you can enjoy and have a good marriage. Now, remember, I did not say a problem-free marriage, because there's no marriage that's problem-free. I'm saying a good marriage. You enjoy it even in the midst of the storm. You can enjoy it. Okay? Qualities of a good husband. Now, what are you going to look for? I'm just going to read out the points. Man, he has to be a man that fears God. The Bible says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. So he has to be a man that fears God. A man with a good personality, please, an arrogant man, beware. If a man is too arrogant, men are egotistical. When you not marry an arrogant man, that's worse. A man that is loyal to you. If somebody is not a loyal person, please do not marry that person, because the person will not keep skipping from one person to the other. Loyalty is a big thing. In every relationship, loyalty is a big thing. Even at work, please, loyalty is a big thing. A man that is responsible and reliable. If this man is not responsible, please run away from him. If you cannot rely on this man, please, not somebody for you to get involved with. Somebody be able to communicate with, talk with, laugh with, joke with, do things with, do life with. Somebody that is sensitive and flexible, that is sensitive, because we women, we're a bundle of emotions. Today we're happy, tomorrow we're sad. Today we're acting up, today different emotions every day. So it has to be someone that can be able to sensitive and flexible. And you can tell once you're dating him, once you're in a courtship relationship, you can tell, you can ascertain if he's that kind of person or not. Somebody that respects you. If the man does not respect you, please, it's a red flag. Somebody that is able to protect you, not the one that you will protect, because the man is supposed to be the protector. And somebody that is selfless. Somebody that is selfless. Very, very selfless, thinking about them. You, because marriage is a good marriage made of people who think about each other, not just think, if it's only me, myself, and I, it doesn't work well for you. There will be so much chaos. So what are the facts of women? Round up before we have our discussion. I want you to know as a woman that you are God's idea. You are not a mistake. He had you in mind. He had a purpose in mind. He has something in mind when he fashioned you. So you're here for a purpose. You're here for a reason. You're here because you're needed. You're here because you're special. You're here because you're important. You're here because God's got a plan for you. You're unique. There are no two women that are alike. You're not like the other woman, so stop comparing yourself to another woman. You can glean from people. That's fine, but you cannot be them. You should be yourself. You're perfect the way God made you. Do not try to be a photocopy. God has made you an original, and being an original is the best thing that you can be. So be yourself. Value yourself. And remember, you're a spiritual being. And the reason God created you is that you might have fellowship with him and worship him in spirit and in truth. This is a woman's position I'm not going to go into because of our time. We've spent a lot of time. So you can look at the scriptures and go read it out at your own time. All right, so I'm just going to use my last slide. A woman cannot fulfill her purpose unless she's in a relationship with God. I've talked about it and I don't want to buttress on it anymore. See, God met Adam and Eve in the garden, and the garden represents man's relationship with God, the place of fellowship, Eden. So you cannot be the kind of woman that you're supposed to be outside God. And I will always tell single ladies, let the man find you in Eden. What is Eden? Eden is a presence of God. Let the man find you in Eden. Let him not find you in a nightclub. Let him not find you where you're not supposed to be. The best place a man can find you is in Eden, because he himself is in Eden for him to find you in Eden. All right, so I will stop that. We are going to entertain some questions. And I know that some questions were asked. We have some questions. Golda was supposed to take care of it, but she stepped out because she had a work to do. So I will, maybe somebody else is going to take care of questions. I'm going to stop recording because I don't want us to record our discussion. I want us to be authentic and real. Auntie Cordelia, please, can you let the youth know that we're going to move our meeting by 30 minutes? Because I know I'm supposed to meet them at 12, but we are running behind. So I'll tell mine as well. Okay, so I'm going to